Hello lovely people, my name is Emma and today I'm bringing you the other half of a book haul that I've already filmed and posted recently. So I think like last week or a couple of weeks ago I posted my non-fiction book haul of books that I've bought in the kind of 2-year hiatus that I haven't read yet that I'm quite excited to get to, and I said I'd bring you the fiction side of that, so that's what we have today. It's a weird mishmash of some magical realism, some horror, some fantasy, a little bit of sci-fi, and then a couple, and I do mean a couple of like historical things in there as well. So I've got quite a collection to talk to you today, and a good number of these are audiobooks as well. The first book I want to talk about is The Midnight Library by Haig. This is a magical realism book about a woman who discovers a library that allows her to go back in time and fix past mistakes in her life. Haig does really sort of whimsical magical realism style books. I've read 3 of his before. I think my favourite is The Radleys, which is about a suburban vampire family. So I'm really intrigued to see what this one's going to be like. It was incredibly popular when it came out, and my father-in-law has read it and said it was really, really good. So I should try and get to this one sometime soon when I want a real feel-good book. Another book about books is The Book of Lost Things by Connolly. This is a YA horror book about a child who ends up being sucked into a book and being embroiled in the scandal that's happening within the world, where there are horror creatures, monsters and a terrible royalty who are going to try and come and get him. It's got quite good reviews, and I don't often read particularly YA, but apparently this one straddles the two, and I am intrigued by what it's going to be like. The next book is Lucian's The 3-Body Problem. This is a bit of a powerhouse when it comes to the sci-fi genre. It is an iconic classic, and this is set in the backdrop of China's Cultural Revolution and then goes forward to modern day, where it's got some kind of alternative reality AI situation going on. There's a little bit of a kind of government conspiracy kind of vibe. This was actually a bit of a spur of the moment one. My friend who's moving to Australia was getting rid of a load of her books, and this was one that was on the shelf, and it kind of jumped out to me as an author that I've been meaning to try for a while. This is such a big name, and this is really I think it's part of a trilogy, this one, so I'm really intrigued to get to it, and it is translated fiction, which I'm always keen to read more of. The next one is a bit of a classic, and that is Kurt Vonnegut'S Jailbird. So this is not one that Kurt Vonnegut is particularly well known for. His big one is Slaughterhouse 5. I've not read any Kurt Vonnegut yet, which seems incredible given the number of classics I've been trying to smash through sort of since getting back into reading about 5 years ago. I also have Mother Night on my shelf. This one is looking at a low-level bureaucrat who was involved in the Watergate scandal, and it's supposed to be kind of absurdist political satire. I'm intrigued to try Vonnegut and just sort of see what the writing is like, and I think that this will be an interesting one to go for, and I have it on audiobook, so I'm excited to see how I like the format for that. The next book I have to talk about is becoming a little bit of an auto-by-author for me, and that is Christina Henry's Alice. Christina Henry is a YA author who does basically exclusively fairy tale retellings, but taking them much on the darker side. This is the 4th book of hers that I'll have got. I've read 3 others before. I've read her Peter Pan, her Little Mermaid and her Red Riding Hood retellings, all of which I've really enjoyed. They're not like slam dunk favourites for me, but they are very fun, interesting, quirky takes on fairy tales. I love the little dark twist to them. They feel more like the original Brothers Grimm, and she just has a lovely fresh writing style. So for me, again, this is going to be one that I'm going to pick up when I just want like a comfy, easy, guaranteed slam dunk read on my shelves, and it's quite easy reading for me, so I'm hoping that with some exams coming up, this might be a good one to pick up. Another audiobook I have is Momenticon by Caldecot. This is the author of the Rotherweird series, of which I read book 1, really enjoyed, and then just couldn't get into book 2, so kind of abandoned the series. This one, so that Rotherweird is like a historical magical realism. I'm not sure quite where Andrew's going with this one. I believe it's like a post-apocalyptic dystopian book. Our main character lives in some kind of dome and is in charge of some kind of museum and is basically been ignored for years, and then something happens that incites the kind of storyline. I love me a bit of dystopian post-apocalyptic fiction. My most popular video on my channel is post-apocalyptic book reviews, which I will link in various places. So I haven't read anything in the genre for a really long time, and I'm intrigued to see what he does with this one, because the world building of Rotherweird was solid as a rock. So I'm really excited to see what this one's going to be like. like. One that's a little bit off-piste for me when it comes to genre is The People on Platform 5 by Claire Pooley. This is just a contemporary book. This is just, there's nothing magical, nothing historical, nothing weird going on. And it's about 5 people who are on a platform who are regularly there. It's part of their daily commute. They don't talk to each other. And then one of them almost chokes on a grape one day. And then one of the other members saves them, and it becomes like the incident that kind of breaks the ice and means that they end up chatting with each other. I'm getting kind of a Nick Hornby, is it High Fidelity? Is that the one where the people meet on a rooftop? That kind of a vibe from it, and I do quite like a little bit of a slice of life at random moments. I believe I picked this one up in like Tesco or something hella random. You know, just in the mood to buy a book and you sort of just see and you go for something a little bit outside of your wheelhouse. And sometimes these can be some of my favourite reads, so not to put too much pressure on this book, but hopefully it'll be a fun one. The next book is much more a classic kind of Emma Reed, and that is The King's Witch by Tracy Borman. This is historical fiction and it is set in the 1600s, and it is just the turn of the end of Queen Elizabeth's reign and the start of King James's reign, and there was a woman in her court who gets accused of witchcraft. King James was King James I was incredibly puritanical and really aggressively led a lot of the witch hunts in the UK, and I've read Tracy Borman's non-fiction book, which is exactly about that. It's incredible. It's one of my favourite non-fiction reads, definitely for history. She's fantastic, and I've heard only good things about this this novelization and her first foray into like fiction, so I'm hoping that she can carry along that writing style, and it'll be lovely to read a fiction book in a time period that she is so knowledgeable about. Then I have The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. This is a horror retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, and I picked this up when I was listening to and watching Dimension 20's Never After, which is a D&D campaign that is set in like horror fairy tales. If you are a fan of immersive, interesting ad-lib improv storytelling, definitely check out Dimension 20's D&D campaigns. They're short, you don't need to know much about Dungeons & Dragons, and they're incredible. I might even do a video reviewing all the different episodes and like series that they've done. But anyway, back on track. Because of that, I was in such a like fairy tale gothic horror mood that when I saw this in the bookstore a couple of days after watching a few episodes of that, I was like, this is a no-brainer. So yeah, I picked it up. I'm intrigued. I think it might be the first of a series as well, but don't quote me on that, I might be wrong there. And yeah, it's very much just let's have fun with Red Riding Hood. Again, one that's a little bit off-piste for me is This Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi. This is the author of the Shatter Me series, which I have not read and have no real intention of reading. She is a big name in YA, and this was sort of a 2-for-1, need to fill a slot on an audiobook Audible deal, and I was just in the mood to chuck in a little bit of light sort of high fantasy stuff. I have absolutely no idea about this world. I have absolutely no idea about her writing. It might be one that sits languishing on my audio collection for 2 years and then gets sort of unhauled, but you never know. Sometimes these can be the most fun reads. So let me know if you think that she's worth it and if you think that it's going to vibe with my kind of reading style. Continuing with our spooky vibes, a surprising number of these books are fitting into the like spooky horror adjacent kind of category, and that is Witch Bottle by Tom Fletcher. This is just straight up horror. It's supposed to be kind of a small creepy town, an outsider gets invited, nobody trusts him, there's something weird going on with the locals, that sort of vibe. It's supposed to have a wildly unreliable narrator, do some kind of funky stuff with the narrating style, and yeah, I am intrigued. Proper folk horror, and with, even though the sun is blazing and it's like 25 degrees today and it's still like middle of August, October is not that far away. It's about to start getting a bit colder, a bit creepier, and that is exactly when I'm going to reach for this book. So I'm hoping in October I'll find myself a spooky readathon. This will fit a prompt and we'll just have a really good freaky time. Then I also have Ithaca by Claire North. This is a Greek mythology retelling of the women who got left behind when Odysseus and the men went off to fight in the Trojan War, and their like lengthy return. So I've read the Odyssey. It's all right. It is very popular at the moment to do Greek retellings and mythology retellings focusing on the women of the story rather than the men, and I've read a couple of them out there. They've all generally been very good. This is just one that was getting a lot of kind of buzz, and I was like, yeah, why not? We'll give it a go. I like myself a little bit of Greek mythology. I like myself a little bit of a retelling. Let's just see what this one's like. So if you've read it and you know about the hype or anything, do let me know down below what your thoughts were. And equally, if you think it's not worth it, do let me know. I know this author has got a huge back catalogue of things in this kind of area. The next book I want to talk about is Circus of Wonders by Elizabeth Macneal. Elizabeth Macneal is a historical writer who wrote, I think The Doll Factory is the name of it, but it's a really incredible historical fiction set in the time of the pre-Raphaelites, and they feature heavily in it. So I really enjoy her, and I've not read anything more from her, so I was very intrigued when I saw this one in the bookshop. Also, it's bloody stunning. Look at those sprayed edges. But what is it actually about? So it's set in the 1800s in England, and it's basically a woman who gets whisked away and joins a travelling circus, and then it's kind of the life that she gets embroiled in. For those of you who've not been around my channel for a long time, I used to belong to the circus. Like, I was a professional circus performer for a period of time, and I did tour with a travelling circus in the UK doing like a diploma of circus skills. It was like a travelling circus school. My life is strange. So this was a bit of a like nostalgia hit weirdly for me, where I was like, I don't tend to read books set in the circus, because when you've lived in that world, then sometimes it can be like the magic is kind of gone because you know what it's like behind the scenes. But it's been long enough since I did anything in the circus community and anything in that world at all, and definitely long enough since I toured. It turns out, popped up on Facebook memories the other day, it's been a decade. I feel so old. So I'm hoping if anyone's going to do it justice, it's going to be Elizabeth Macneal, and I think it might be time to finally dip back into the glitter and sequins of the wonderful world of circus performing. So I'm looking forward to reading this. And then we were going to call it there, but I was in town the other day and I was sad and I wanted to buy myself some books to perk myself up. So I might have treated myself in W.H. Smith. Whoops. I also bought Other Lands, which was the non-fiction I was talking about in my last book haul, in physical form. So I've done that now, yay. But anyway, what else did I buy? I bought Shrines of Gaiety by Kate Atkinson. Kate Atkinson is a powerhouse author who writes a combination of some crime books, which are not my thing, and a load of historical fiction, which are totally my thing. Life After Life is freaking fantastic. She has another one as well, Transcript, something like that, which is a great like World War II fiction. This one is set in the 1920s after the Great War, and it is kind of just about like flapper girls and that whole vibe. I think there's a little bit of a kind of seedy underbelly of crime kind of thing going on. It's a bit chunky, but I generally feel like I'm in good hands with Kate Atkinson, so it's going to be totally worth the read. The cover's great as well, and it was actually on my want to reads list. I'm so bad at buying books from my want to reads on Goodreads, so this doesn't count as a new book because it's a book that was already on my radar. Yeah, that's how book buying bounds work. Shut up. And then one to complete the 3 for 2 when I was in W.H. Smith is Akwaeke Emezi's You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. I have read this author's book Freshwater, which is a really weird, cool coming of age book, and it's freaky. It's got a little bit of almost like body horror stuff going on. It's very, very fun. And this one apparently is a little bit more of a straight contemporary fiction, contemporary romance kind of vibe. She falls for her boyfriend's father, I believe, and maybe. I genuinely am not 100% certain, but basically Akwaeke Emezi is very cool, does some really good work, and I want to read more from them. So this haul has had a lot of like, I recognise that author's name, I want to read some more from them, let's start delving into their back catalogue, and this is just an example of that. So those are mainly all the books that I kind of bought in the 2 years that I haven't already read yet, that I'm excited by, ignoring the fact I probably missed a load. Where do you want me to start? What are you hyped by on this list? What can't you wait for my thoughts on? Equally, is there something on this list that you're like, mate, don't waste your time, just unhaul it now? Let me know everything in the comments down below. That's pretty much it from me. Have a wonderful reading week, and I will chat to you soon. Bye!